everyone join me in welcoming Lady G and Brenna. Thank you, Caitlin, for that kind introduction. And Lisa, thank you for inviting me to be part of this today. I'm just so happy to be here with you from all across the Midwest and beyond, some of the key leaders and sharpest legal minds that we have here in this country. I've got news for you. It's going to be your job to get our country back on track. And it's made all easier by the fact that we actually do have the answers. Maybe not all of the answers, but we do have answers to the biggest question. Thank you to our founding fathers who gave us a great Constitution. If we just followed it, things would work out a lot better. So, was just talking to somebody here today, and he mentioned that the practice of law is no longer like being a Maytag repair man anymore, right? That's where you just sit around and wait for something to break. It's certainly not what my office is like in the Attorney General's office in Iowa. We're not sitting around waiting for something to happen. Unfortunately, right now, everything is broken. And that's why the country needs you now more than ever, and why I'm really thankful to get to serve as Attorney General, because I get to enforce the Constitution and our laws on the federal government so that they follow them just like everybody else. And it is truly a privilege to get to do that. We also shouldn't forget that one of the special things we get to do is we get to be messengers for the rule of law, for the Constitution, for our founding principles. And we should not take for granted our legal education, but we should also realize that our Constitution is intended for every American to be a constitutional lawyer, for them to know their own constitutional rights. And they're not hard to figure out because, wisely, our founding fathers were writing our Constitution. You can see it is based on natural law, nature's law. And it certainly doesn't take a law degree to learn how to be a free people, how to form a republic, how to divide power. And it's no accident that our Constitution starts out with we the people and not we the government. So very privileged to get to be here with you today. And it's good to see so many friends, folks I know, and also folks that I hope to meet. So I just want to encourage you as the Iowan in me, because we're very friendly people most of the time, to get to know some folks you haven't met before. Maybe if there's a new face here or someone you might not know, just take that time to get to know them, because every conversation that you're going to have here today and tonight at dinner is going to be a special one and a valuable one. And we learn so much from each other. And at a time like this where our country is going through so much, it helps us to have each other and to have those bonds of friendship. I thought I could tell you a little bit about my perspective that I bring to all of this. I am from Iowa, was actually born and raised on a farm, was homeschooled, so I got a good education, spent a little time here in this town for law school. But one thing I always want people to know about my biography is, yes, I'm so thankful that in 2022 we were victorious in our election and we defeated the longest serving Attorney General in U.S. history. He'd been there for 40 years, believe it or not. He had gotten elected back when I was 2 years old, and he'd been there quite a long time since. Yeah, oh, thank you. And a lot of folks here in this room were helpful with that, because it takes everybody to have something like that be the outcome. But I always want to remind people of a part of my bio that sometimes people leave off, which is I ran in 2010 and lost. And I say that because I think today's environment requires something on the farm we call grit in your gizzard, okay? And I don't know how many people have raised chickens, probably not that many, other than me. I don't know who else has, but there's a couple of hands, good. But chickens, what they do is they go and peck at the ground. You probably see that sometimes. I don't know if they have a petting zoo here with chickens, but where you can see they're pecking at the ground. And they're not just eating dirt. They're actually picking up pieces of rocks and grit. And that grit stays in their gizzard, which is what they have instead of a stomach that a mammal would have. And when they eat corn or other grains, it grinds it up so that they can digest it. So having some grit in your gizzard, I think that's something we could all use right now. Probably a more high-minded term for that might be fortitude, right?
But this is a time where not only do you need to be the great lawyers that you are with your legal skills and your networks and your understanding of our laws and Constitution, but we all need just a little bit of grit in our gizzard or fortitude with everything that this country is going through. And also, it's not enough just to get through it. We have to get the country back on the right path. We have to follow the principles that are outlined in our Constitution. And we all know it's not a Republican Constitution or a Democratic Constitution. It's the American Constitution. In some ways, it's a political document. I think in other ways, it's a very apolitical document. And that is a value that we can never lose sight of. When I came into the AG's office, the first thing I noticed, because my predecessor had called me, he told me he took the desk because it was his. And I'm like, well, that's a good heads up, because to walk into your office and to realize there's no desk, you're like, okay, what do we do? But no desk. He was about a foot taller than me, so he left his chair, but that wasn't helpful because I can't sit in a chair for somebody who's 6'2". That won't work. But I remember looking over at the wall, at the paneling, this walnut paneling, and you could see these dark squares that were outlined by a light color, because that's how long his pictures had been on the wall, right? And you might think, well, I hope you had that redone. No, we are spending the money in our office hiring prosecutors, and we're hiring attorneys to hold the Biden administration accountable. That's how we're spending our money. But also because I like to look at that spot on the wall. Because some days, and we've all had days like this, we work hard. Maybe it's weeks, maybe it's months. We work hard, but at the end of the day, if we really asked ourselves what we have to show for it, other than the fight, sometimes there's not a lot there. Now, the fight is worth it, but it's not easy to go through those days and realize, okay, we worked so hard, did we get ahead, and were we able to hold the federal government accountable? Did we get justice? Are we moving the ball forward? Are we helping our country? Are we helping our state? And some days are tough. You look at that day and it didn't go the way you wanted to. But when I look at that wall and I see that dark walnut, I just think, well, I did do something once, right? I did do something once. I'm going to leave those patches there for as long as the sun will let them stay, because they're a good reminder. It's also a good reminder to us to use every single day we have, not to be complacent, not to just let time go by. It's so easy for that to happen and to stay busy. We all know what it's like to be busy. I think the people in this room are probably some of the most active and engaged people out there. But being busy isn't what it's all about. It's about focusing on what's important, what our priorities are, and I say making good use of that unique blessing that we have as Americans and as lawyers and as people who care about the Constitution to uphold the structures of liberty and to help to light the path for the way to get our nation back to what it really can be. Another job I want to mention that I have, which I probably should have mentioned before Lisa asked me to come here today, that getting to be Attorney General, as much as I like to do it, is only my third most important job, so it comes in third. Number one is being my husband's wife, Bob, which is not hard, and then being mom to our son, Beckett, who's 7. And the Attorney General job comes in third. Now, sometimes those things get combined. If you ever see me with a 7-year-old who's my senior advisor, that would be our son, Beckett. And I do from time to time ask him for some advice, and I have to say he's doing quite well. The last time I asked him, it had been a busy day, and he has to, hang out in some boring meetings, as he likes to call it. But I asked him if he had any advice for me as senior advisor, and he said yes, he did. He advised that I should sign some papers and then go for ice cream. I thought, solid advice. That's why we keep him around. Ice cream is never a bad idea. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the fights that we have ahead of us. And I know you're going to hear from some great panels today. I'm really excited about that. And maybe part of my welcome will be to set a bar, because once you see who's on the panel, you're going to be wowed. Great people, people that have been involved for a long time, and truly make a difference for what is right in our nation. But we've got some real challenges on our hands. I had a reporter once ask me how many times our office had sued the Biden administration. And I said, I don't know. And they were a little surprised. They said, it's not a scoreboard. I'm not trying to run up any score. I'll sue them every time they're violating the Constitution and our laws, which unfortunately right now has been quite a bit, from waters of the U.S. to the reckless policies that are illegal along the southern border to canceling student debt for the second time around, even though we took that case all the way up to the Supreme Court last year. It's coming back again. We could go on, but I couldn't tell you a number because at the end of the day, what is the number supposed to be? 0. I want that number to be 0 because I want our federal government to follow the Constitution just like they take that oath to when someone is sworn into office. They take an oath to uphold the Constitution. I want them to follow our Constitution and respect our Constitution. So ideally, that number should be 0. But it is not. And for those of you that work in an AG's office or want to work in an AG's office, I have to tell you, it is some of the most rewarding work that you can get to do. We have an absolutely amazing team, a lean team of lawyers that get to work with other states on some of the most pressing issues facing our day and lighting that path to the future so that people can see the difference. And right now, we really are the bulwark between for example, an EPA that just does what it wants, or California that tries to tell other states what to do. We're that bulwark that puts a stop to what they are doing. It's very special work to get to do it. I was always glad to get the chance to go to law school. I was the first person in my family to go to law school. But I have to say, even though my brother is a 7th generation farmer, so we've got a lot of farmers in our family, 7th generation farmer, I guess it's come to a time where in order to be a farming family, I guess you have to have a lawyer to stand up to the federal government and to put a stop to some of those, that overreach and those policies that go too far. So I am just so glad that we can join each other today. And if there are folks here I haven't met, I really hope that we can spend some time talking and getting to know each other because some of the best things come from gatherings just like this. And I especially love something about the Federalist Society, and I've been involved ever since law school when I was here in town. It's all about the ideas, isn't it? It's about ideas. It's about rigorous thought. It's about being challenged and really thinking things through. So now more than ever, I think America needs the Federalist Society, needs a group just like this, and certainly needs you because you are the warrior lawyers that are going to get our country back on track. And throughout all of the work that you do, when you do that with an eye towards the Constitution, with an understanding of what makes our country so wonderful. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. I have a background as a prosecutor, and I am particularly concerned when I see prosecution, criminal justice being used as a political weapon. That should never happen, and I certainly never took account of someone's politics when I charged a crime. I looked at justice. And justice should be something that is neither Republican nor Democrat. It should be justice. That's what it is. That type of thing will really tear our country asunder if politics is pursued through the courts, through the criminal courts, as a means to affect a political outcome. And if we want to know how bad it can get, I think we only need to turn on the TV, right, just before an election, and you see all those nasty ads, and you get lots of text messages and mailers and all of those things. Now, it's one thing to have to deal with all that as a voter. It's not a lot of fun, but it's free speech, and people make up their minds. What about if you turn that on its head and that becomes part of a criminal prosecution designed to deprive someone of their liberty and to intimidate other people from associating or working with people? That is dangerous. It's dangerous to our country. And when I was in college, I studied Russian language because I thought it would be an interesting thing, just a minor, and I'm no good at it, but I enjoyed reading Russian literature and had a chance to go to Russia. And as I talked with people and I saw what communism had done to them, and I remember a day that I looked and went to a gulag out in the middle of Siberia because it was a place I'd really wanted to see. It's not close to anything, quite frankly. It's pretty hard to get to. But one thing that struck me, and something I really want you to think about as you go through this next year, there were pictures on the wall of this gulag of all the different people who had been imprisoned there. And gulags, for those who don't know, that's a Soviet death camp where they would put people in the middle of Siberia and would work them literally to death. It was a death sentence to be sent to this gulag, literally to death without food or medical care, in some of the harshest conditions we have on this planet. The pictures on the wall were of all the different people that they had pictures of who had been there. And when I looked at those pictures, I was struck by something. First of all, there were a lot of people who were sentenced to that gulag because they were Jews. And I think the anti-Semitism we're seeing here in our world today and in the United States should give us all pause. But there were also people on that wall who were part of the Soviet regime, whether they were part of the apparatus, high-ranking people within the Soviet system, because that system, whenever they wanted to take someone out who might be powerful, they would either oftentimes be assassinated or be sent to a gulag, to a prison work camp, until they worked themselves to death. And I remember when I saw that, I never thought we could ever see something like that in this country. And I have to say, I still don't think I will see something like that in this country, because we will never let the criminal justice system be used for political retribution or political purposes. But that stands as a stark reminder to us all about what really is at stake, that politics has no place in prosecutions, and that justice is justice. So with that, I want to welcome you all here today and enjoy our time together and enjoy this wonderful chance that we have to hear from these great panels. Thank you.